All right, crack open a beer. It's time for the genre deep dive. Woo! Okay, I have 3 different series that I am wanting to do. I had the classical music, the deep dive here. I want to do an emo music deep dive, which I think I'll do last. And then after this series, I think I will do. I have top 10 albums, like most out like that I want to listen to the most. Because I redid my top 100 albums of all time this year, and I did a top 1,000 songs list, which took me so long. But when I did that list, I realized that there's a lot of songs from albums that I've just still not listened to, so I gotta get to them. But regardless, I'm doing this video. This is the first one. Igor Stravinsky, Le Sacre de Printemps. And this is a relatively popular classical music project. I see here that it's also ballet. Okay. I listened to there's a classical album I listened to recently, and I think that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this. It was the what is it called? Symphony number 3 something. Here, let me find it. Yeah, Gorecki, Symphony number 3. And I really, really loved it. Like, it's one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. And funnily enough, too, I completely didn't realize that I've listened to it before. It sounded so familiar. But, again, classical music sometimes sounds very familiar, right? Especially because of how often it's used in media. But I guess I listened to it a decade ago when Beth Gibbons, singer of Portishead, did it, and there was a live album of that. So weird, but okay, we're gonna get into this. Here, this is a shorter project. I think I just had time for a shorter thing right now, so I was like, you know what? This will be the first album I do. So I'm gonna apologize to y'all. You're not gonna see it. I listened to the first 6 minutes. Okay, I listened to the first 6 minutes, so you're not gonna get my reaction to that. But you are gonna get my reaction to that. And why is that? Because I listened to it on 2 times speed. I was wondering why it was sounding so fucking crazy. I was like, wow, this first song went by quick. Yeah, because it was half the fucking time. Oh my god. What the fuck? It actually sounded good though, 2 times speed, not gonna lie. Okay, now it's about to switch up there. That first song on there, well, I guess the introduction. This is interesting classical music. Again, I think the one thing that I have gotten to learn with my small, you know, listening habits with classical music is like, if you're not listening to classical music, you can certainly have an ignorant understanding of it, like it sounds like this, but there's a lot of variety, especially in mood. And again, like the Grecki stuff that I'd listened to, I may not be pronouncing that correctly, is so slow, and like it really has this sort of like beauty to it. This comes off like it was meant to be put into a horror movie. You know what I mean? It comes off kind of not inviting. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just, that's sort of like the vibe it's putting off, and it's unique for me. Okay, we're still leading somewhere there, and it's just getting more horrific, more fucking creepy. Like, man, this is not the album. You know, like, classical music, I think, can be relaxing in the sense where I could listen to it before going to bed. This ain't not the shit I'm listening to before I'm going to bed, man. That is going to cause some severe nightmares, okay? One thing I will say that I like about this, and maybe about classical music in a whole, too, is I love being able to hear sort of the distance away from where all the instruments are recorded. Some are more present, some are trying to be louder, some are trying to be quieter. Just that detail is not always something that maybe I pick up on fully when it comes to other genres, I suppose. Okay, before we get on to the next thing there. Dude, this shit's giving me shivers, man. It's a lot. I don't know if I can really say... Actually, no, that's not true. I have listened, and there's going to be an album I'll be reacting to later, which is like the... I don't even know what it's called off the top of my head, but it's got the... Something for the Victims of Hiroshima. That's one of the songs on that. That's the most notable song on there. Unfortunately, I have heard that before. That shit is fucking terrifying, terrifying, terrifying. That's the example of classical music where it just feels like, you know, there's a monster underneath my bed. Like, I'm gonna start believing that shit if this music's on. It's okay, yeah. So Spring Rounds is this, Ritual of Abduction, short track, leads into Spring Rounds, and Spring Rounds makes me feel like there's some sort of reprieve from the scary shit. And it's not sounding like blissful or anything like that, but it seems, the word that's coming to my head is like commanding. You know what I mean? Like there's like some power behind it, like it's in charge. And then it goes and leads into the scary ass shit again. Oh my fucking god. Okay, there's definitely an epic exit to that. That's the first, like, I guess, song on there, part one, and then we'll get to part two there. But oh my gosh, this is just the emotions it's eliciting in me. Like compared again, like because Gorecki had such an impact on me recently. Like one that could draw tears for me. I'm listening to this and it's like, oh yeah, this can draw tears for me, but because I'm fucking scared that some demon is trying to enter my fucking, my fucking body. Like, whoa, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I'll be honest, I don't know how often I'm gonna re-listen to this. Like this is like why I don't really like to rewatch The Exorcist, because that film scared the shit out of me as a kid, and every time I end up watching it, I'm like, you know what? Very well made, amazing movie, but I think I'm not gonna watch it again. That's kind of how I feel about this, because it feels like I'm falling down a pit and I'm looking at all this shit around me, and it's like this is me going to fucking hell, bro. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, wow, the fact that it can really create that feeling for me is phenomenal. Okay, so that's the first thing, the introduction on part 2. Not as scary. Not even remotely close as scary as what was happening on part 1. It's much quieter, much more meditative. There's certainly, it's like strong, sharp moments within that song. And I don't know, I'm kind of still attaching it in my head to part 1, where it's like part 1, the way that ends, and it's like, it's as if I've fallen into this hell pit, and now I don't know. This is, again, just like the way I'm feeling. It has really nothing to do with what the song actually is or the quality of the song, but it's like as if I've spent a little bit of time in this hellish pit, and I have some acceptance to it, but I'm left still with unease. I don't know. That's what's coming to my mind. This part 2 here is moving a lot slower. I'm not getting as much like feelings, I guess, which is more so because that first part was just like hitting you there. But it seems like it's getting quieted down with Mystic Circles of the Young Girls. Okay. Never mind. Okay, before we get into that last one there, okay. I will say, though, I don't think I like part 2 even remotely close to part 1. But I do enjoy the kind of change up it took. Glorification of the Chosen One is wacky as shit. Really feeling the intensity of that. And then, Evocation of the Ancestors is really short. Ritual Action of the Ancestors, I think, is definitely the coolest one in part 2. That one really amps up the intensity with the end of that. I will say, too, though, the kind of nuts parts on this aren't even close to being as creepy as part 1. Like, it doesn't feel like it's coming at me in the same way. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's trying to enrapture me. I don't know. But now we have one last song, which I will say, it says here the original ending is not the original on the recording. I've decided to improve it. This was posted on YouTube, this video, literally not even a month ago. Okay, enough epicness to that last song, but I don't think it really stood out. Okay, I will say that I do think um, reviewing all this stuff is going to prove to maybe be complicated. Um, I do like this. I do like it. I don't think it's particularly as re-listenable as other classical albums I've heard, but I think that's much more because of the emotions that it elicits from me are not something that I'm really sinking into. I'm more like, okay, like holy crap, right? This is really creepy. Which again, I've already kind of repeated my feelings for that. But I do think that it's very well orchestrated. It's extremely cinematic. I do think part one kind of did more for me in the sense of its energy and where it was really trying to lead to, I think. Part two, I think it was, I don't know, I think it's got an interesting structure to it. At least on first listen, I feel like I'm not particularly able to connect to like where it was trying to go for me. But this was an interesting first album out of the 10 I'm doing. For it to start off with this, it's like, where are we going to go from here? Yeah, I don't know the context of this album, or I guess I shouldn't say album, but of this work. I don't know what the context is, like what its meaning is. I know that it's ballet related. I don't know anything about Igor Stravinsky. I know him by name. Leonard Bernstein, he's like really popular as a composer, but I don't really know a lot about him either. I did see the movie Maestro. It was okay. It wasn't really that groundbreaking of a movie. And I think that movie cared much more about his personal life than his impact on music, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious as to the relevance of Stravinsky and Bernstein when it comes to classical music a little bit more. I don't know if there's any other works by Stravinsky that have maybe the same stature as this one, but or if Igor Stravinsky made other music that doesn't sound this fucking scary. You know what I mean? Like, what was his intent, for his work? Yeah. One thing I will say too, when it comes to classical music, especially this year, I do, and again, I think the reason why people I shouldn't say that, because there's a difference to it. Yes, classical music is used in movies all the time, right? That's something they are a match made in heaven. But the way I'm thinking about this is this: there's this whole 35-minute project where it changes trajectory. You know what I mean? Throughout the whole thing, it's not like what we're used to with contemporary music, where there is there's a different type of structure. We're expected to do chorus, verse, verse, chorus, so forth, bridge, whatever the fuck, right? It's not entirely like that here. It seems like I'm dealing with new sounds or a new journey or throughout the whole thing, right? And I do find that to be a very unique experience to have with music, because obviously my age, when I was born, classical music is not something that's really promoted to us, right? It's not something that's really being given to us, unless you were enough of a nerd to find yourself wanting to listen to soundtracks from albums, or sorry, soundtracks from movies, right? Where then you'd be dealing with your Hans Zimmers or Howard Shores, or I don't know if you were a fucking fan of all those Studio Ghibli movies, right? But yeah, I think I'll give this an 8 out of 10 right now, because I think it is a really great, really well made work. But I do think there is some subjectivity at play where I feel like I am a little bit slightly aversive to listening to this again, because it didn't provide me with nice emotions. You know what I mean? It provide, like, if I'm going to listen to this again, it's like I said, like, it's to want to be left with this emotion, I guess, which is maybe not the most common thing. But I'm going to come back to it a few more times and then maybe have a few more thoughts to provide. Alrighty, here I am with this Le Sacre de Printemps, the Stravinsky, conducted by Bernstein. I came back to it a few more times, and I think I could up the score to an 8.5. I think this, I will still say, like, this is the type of classical music that is not ever going to reach, like, a certain level of peak, mostly because of how off-putting it is. Like, I did enjoy those re-listens, though. I was able to kind of sit with it a little bit better, you know, as in, when my first listen occurred, I was petrified, right? But I eased up a little bit. But I will say, too, I do think that the second half of this is not as engaging as the first. That also makes it not go higher than an 8.5. But one reason why, again, it gets a great score regardless is because this is so well made. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it's able to elicit sharp emotion. And I think that's something that I like from a lot of classical music that I've listened to, is how it's able to strongly create emotion through all these different sounds. But I think one thing is, too, is I don't really know how to discern good classical to bad classical music. Do you know what I mean? That's something that I should probably look into. Don't listen to just the classics of the classics. Yeah, but I really like this. I wonder if I'll like the other albums more as I continue on. But out of the 10 albums I'll do, I wonder where this will rank. Will this be number 10? Will this be number 1? I don't think it'll be number 1. But yeah, if there's anything else you want to see me react to, anything at all, you put a comment down below. And thank you for watching. Peace.